Working it.
Hey, Mary.
If anybody can hear us right now, I think you can. Tom Trento here, 9:02 in the morning on Friday, the 14th, May 14th. Seems there's something. That was the day we were in Israel for the the embassy moving from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, 2018. It was May 14th.
All right, you're live on most of them.
That day stuck. So you have a little understanding of what's going on in our studio. We've been producing a long time. You've been around 10, 12 years, something like that.
Yeah, a long time.
And we're on and off the radio. We buy commercial time when we have money. We broadcast in South Florida terrestrially with an antenna. But then the signal through iHeartRadio and goes all over the world, essentially, or through the internet. And we're not on radio right now because we don't have the money to buy the radio time. That gives us protection because people don't like our message that much sometimes. Pro-Israel, pro-America. So we are broadcasting through the internet, podcast, live streaming. But we signed up with this new software, and you can send our signal to one place, and then it, like the tentacles of an octopi, many octopi.
Yeah.
It can go out to 50 different social media platforms. And people are signing up and we're putting it in different places. The only problem is Mary, our executive producer, she's up in Georgia working all of this stuff behind the scenes, and you got to input each of those and put passcodes and all this stuff. There's a lot of maintenance
she works her magic
to getting it done. And once it's done, then it's locked in.
I'm the wizard behind the screen.
You're the wizard behind the screen. Are we broadcasting to people so that we can get started?
Yes.
Okay,
YouTube,
good.
You're on the website. You're on a couple of YouTube.
All right, the main things are going. For new folks joining in, and people are joining in day and night. We're also sending. This show is live right now. Here, look here, fist bump. Look at that. That's live.
Oh, it's live. Yeah.
We're live, and we finished probably around 10:30 today. We have a panoply of guests, some from Israel, some from the United States. And then later on this afternoon, we'll send this show out that was taped right now. It's live right now. So people are coming in all over. We're going to be here Saturday and Sunday. We're going to be here as long as this war goes on. My Torah observant co-host, Susie Gold, you won't be here.
I will not be here.
Where are you going to be?
Monday and Tuesday. So Monday and Tuesday is Shavuos or Shavuot. And so it's a day of where we don't travel, nor we actually spend a lot of time in shul. We spend a lot of time in the community with our families, and it's actually to remember the giving of the Torah was during that time, which is 7 weeks after Passover. So here we spent 7 weeks. Actually, during these 7 weeks, we count every day. It's called counting the Omer. And every day you're supposed to work on your own character improvement and work on yourself.
What are you doing here? What are you doing
I
here?
do as I'm here, because most of character improvement is how we deal with our fellow man, right? So, and then it culminates with those days of counting the Omer, culminates to Shavuos. And we actually eat dairy. There's a lot of Jewish holidays. Actually, most of our Jewish holidays, we have a lot of symbolic foods or things that occur around the dining room table. And certainly it's family time, it's community time. And but we eat dairy because we didn't receive the Torah yet. And the Torah gave us the laws of keeping kosher. So we didn't know yet, like how we're supposed to take care of animals and to slaughter animals for food. And so we didn't yet have the laws on how to slaughter. So therefore we eat dairy. So I'm making a lot of quiches. So real men eat quiche.
And she's a good cook. Let me tell you, we've been to her home and eaten her food. And, we got to bring Robin up here.
Yes.
Our kosher chef.
Yeah.
All right, Tom
She's
Trento,
a better
Susie Gold.
cook than me too.
We're here today. J. Mark over there. Monte Cristo's here. Somebody's going, that's not a real name. It is a real name,
It
Monty.
is.
Last name Cristo.
Cristo,
You know,
yeah.
no big deal. So Mark's conducting business here. All right, we have a lot of things going on. I think first up, we're going to have Dr. Roni Wexler.
Mary, could you resend the link to Ronnie?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I think
Because
I
he
did.
just sent a message at 9:02.
I
maybe
sent
I
it
did.
to him as well.
All right. Ronnie will get the link. He'll be in a little while. Then later on, around the bottom of the hour, it is 9:07 a.m. on the East Coast right now, and 4:07 in the afternoon in Israel. The bottom of the hour, David Horowitz, Freedom Center, legend, Jewish scholar. We've had him on many, many times. Prolific writer, activist, former commie. Raised in a red family. He was a red diaper baby.
Yes.
And went the Marxist way. Then I think somebody hit him on the head and he goes, this is crazy. And became a conservative capitalist. And then started an organization to argue for the Judeo-Christian principles. He, by his own admission, is an atheist, but admires the Christian role in culture, in society. Mickey Rosenfeld on I-24. If you're watching us, we monitor I-24 News. Right behind Susie and I, right over here on the screen. Mickey Rosenfeld is, let's listen to him. South African, head of the police in all of Jerusalem.
The events that are taking place. What do we expect tonight, Mickey? What about tonight going into Friday night? The confluence of events we discussed here. What's the police prediction for this evening? So many in the country, not sure what to expect.
Well, we've seen over the last week violence that has taken place once the sun goes down. So we're expecting disturbances. We're going to try and respond and prevent those issues from escalating, protect people as much as possible, try and be at every place, at every step and every place where we need to be. But it's not just Israeli Arabs who are attacking Jews. We've also seen a number of mobs walking around. So we have to prevent those incidents from taking place as well. But also, moments ago, rockets were also fired towards Beersheba. Those are much more serious issues that we're dealing with as well. 2 interceptions over the Beersheba area. So a lot of activities going on at the moment, both in terms of the internal security perspective, as well as the threat of those ongoing rockets, all the way through to the area of Tel Aviv.
Thank you, Rosenfeld. Thanks for being with us. A lot going on, we know, and appreciate the updates from you, police spokesman. Now, reports right now are emerging from both the Jordanian and Lebanese borders with Israel that rioters have breached the fences. Hey, look at these images here.
That's a shot.
In the southern region of the border with Israel. A large group of rioters there near that fence ended up breaking through at some points, vandalizing property. Again, according to the reports from the scene there. Now, security forces.
This is not good.
Northward here, apparently responding to that scene. This is the Lebanese border here, where also some crowds of. We believe our Palestinian.
It's obvious there's an international call for the Muslims to rise up.
Parts of the fence. This is a complex, multi-tiered border. Important for our viewers to understand. Heavily patrolled, and recently this hour, the Israel Defense Force.
You can see the fences. We've been all along that many times.
Dispersing those crowds in at the border. The reports latest.
It's not good.
Across the fence, we're retreating back into Jordan and Lebanon. There were also some crowds of stepping out for a short.
It's obvious there's an international call for the Muslims to rise up. That's the delay feeding back somewhere.
Unrest appearing at seemingly major junk.
All right.
All right.
We got David on.
See the fences. We've been all along that many times. Ronnie's first. David's supposed to be in an hour, but maybe we bring him on right now. David Simpkins, is that him?
Yeah, I think we got something.
Obvious because there's an international call. That's the delay feeding back somewhere. David, shut your audio off, please. We're going to go to Ronnie first. See the fences. You got to shut David off. What we're doing, Tom Trento studio. This is live, and we have a feed coming in. Maybe we bring him on right now, and a feed from the U.S. Mary's got it.
That's the delay feedback.
We're gonna hear from Roni
David,
Wexler
shut your
shortly,
audio.
as soon as this
We're gonna go to Ronnie.
sound's working properly. Ronnie is the principal owner of Heritage Study Programs. We've traveled to Israel. Brilliant man, and has so much to always share with us, and his trips to Israel, the missions are absolutely fabulous. And we go that ordinary trips and tours do not take you to. Look behind Israel. Roni Wexler is based out of Boca Raton, but he's also the director of the Poland Jewish Heritage program of the Taub Foundation for Jewish Life and Culture. So and it's Dr. Roni Wexler.
Yeah, go ahead.
Absolutely fabulous. Trips and
Mary,
tours.
shut David off. Just disconnect David.
Someone's feeding back on us too.
Ronnie, it's not Ronnie, I don't think.
Yeah, we can't hear
It is Ronnie.
it. Is Ronnie?
All right, Ron, you have to reboot and come back in. A lot of moving parts.
Yes.
We have a pretty nice studio. We could use a little refurbishing, some donations for equipment. We have a pretty nice studio, but we're doing so many different moves at the same time.
And we don't rehearse. So we don't have a script other than bios, because my memory is not as good as Tom's. But other than bios, this is all ad lib. And that's because we are bringing you up-to-date current information. So we don't have time to rehearse this stuff like they do on some news stations.
All right, let's go to David. All right, we got audio here, David. David, are you there? David, can you hear me?
He's not muted, so
He's moving around, it looks like. David's
David's
in
So
Israel,
of course,
yes.
there's a 7-hour delay.
David.
So
all
it's about
right.
4 o'clock in Israel.
It's 4:14 in Israel, 9:14 here. Looks like Ronnie's back.
All right, let's go to David. All right, we got audio here, David. David, are you there?
Ronnie's feeding back.
David, can you hear me?
Cancel Ronnie. Ronnie,
Try iPhone.
He's moving around, it looks like.
Yeah,
David.
maybe come on your iPhone.
David's
Ron.
in Israel.
all right, you guys sort that out. Mary and Mark figure that out.
David.
And I'll get into the material we have today and we get our guests sorted out. We have all kinds of cross feeds taking place, but the overnight information from Israel is that there was an extremely deceptive move on Israel's part. A brilliant military strategic move, reminiscing, many people have said, back to the Revolutionary War in the United States. A very deceptive move on Israel's part that projected a military movement against us. It's important to understand as we get into the details that the area in question, the Gaza Strip. Anyone who's been to Israel understands what the Gaza Strip is. It's about 3 miles wide at its widest point. I would have Mark back
on top of Tom.
trying to sort out the audio problem. And 21 miles long. It is some of the nicest real estate on the face of the planet. It's on the Mediterranean Sea. It is beautiful, and the Muslims have nice homes.
They do. They have their palatial estates, and there's 5-star hotels, and there's malls, very, very upscale malls. But they don't show that on any news station. They just show actually the the Arabs that they put along the Gaza border, and that's for the cameras. And they actually, we have some footage of some that are getting prepared for the cameras. And what they do is they put on fake red paint all over them, especially the children, to show that, the horrible Israelis, look what they're doing to these women and children. Well, meanwhile, there's a lot of theatrics.
And the situation there is there's about 1.5, 2 million people. And it's pretty dense. I mean, the living conditions are pretty dense. Until it was up until 2005, that was part of Israel, primarily Arabs who hated Israel. So the decision in 2005 was to move the Jews out. And there were thousands, I think 8 or 10,000 Jews living in this area for centuries, families.
Yes.
And Israel made a decision. Hindsight, a lot of people think it was crazy. And they literally dragged the Jews
they carried them out.
Carried them out. They did not want to leave.
Crying and, just.
We have a cop friend, a law enforcement officer. He was one of the last people to drag Jews out and close the gate. And when he did that, 2005, after 20 years of service, he took his badge and his gun and he handed it over. He quit.
Yeah, it was very
He goes,
painful.
I don't-
Painful for them.
I don't drag Jews out of Israel. That's not my job anymore.
Right.
I'm done with this. So a very controversial move. But since 2005, the idea was land for peace. You want land? Arabs want land. We'll give you Gaza. We'll give you 21 miles by 3 miles. Go at it. Do the best you can.
And they left kibbutz that was beautiful and flourishing and with fruits and vegetables. And the Israelis taught the Arabs how to cultivate the land and how to grow these wonderful, delicacies and fruits and beautiful, beautiful trees. And actually now, after the Israelis left and they left it to the Arabs, they demolished it.
Yeah, and not only that, not only was a lot of the architecture, the landscape, the areas that were being under production by the Jews, not only was that destroyed, synagogues destroyed, but fighting started immediately.
That's right.
Stones and rocks and this, and then escalated.
And Hamas put their missiles and their warfare under people's homes in that area, in the schools, by the recreational areas, and that's what they do.
Well, you had to have a government. Yeah, you had 2 million people. You have to have a government. After a lot of struggling between several Arab factions, the Palestinian Authority, Islamic Jihad, Hamas, who's going to control Gaza? That was the big question, 2005, 2006. And we have somebody with us who can provide that answer.
We have an expert.
Let's try this again, see if we can get Dr. Roni Wexler, Israeli-American, born in Israel. He has dual citizenship, an American citizen. And our dear friend, you introduced him a bit before. Let's try again. Roni, are you there?
I'm here, yes.
Okay.
Oh, that's great. Loud and clear.
All right. Ron, what we're doing on the show is bringing up-to-date information on the war to folks, but we're also taking a step back and building a cultural, historic, geographic context for people to understand, the Jews are fighting the Muslims again. This is all they do. We're trying to eradicate that sort of thinking and lay out some reasons why this is occurring. Comment on the movement of Jews out of Gaza. Give us the political context, how they came about, and what's occurred in the past 15, 16 years.
Well, it's obvious that when you live among bad neighbors, it is very hard to maintain life as usual. And for a while after the 1967 war, there was a euphoria, a time of an idea of latter-day euphoric atmosphere where Jews and Arabs can live together. I personally can tell you that I many times went to Gaza to do some shopping and eat in different restaurants and so on and so forth, just the same as we do now in the old city of Jerusalem. And I remember where my home in Tel Aviv, there were many people that came from East Jerusalem, Arabs that for the first time had access to a beach, and they came to be with us on the beach. Gaza has beautiful beaches, and Israelis, after going shopping in the market, went to a coffee house on the beach too. So there was an idea that things could work out. And most Gazians that had some trade that could be applied in Israel got jobs in Israel. So it was a time where it looked pretty good. Then nationalism came when Fatah started to bring its head up, Yasser Arafat and the Fatah group. It was way before the Hamas. And then all of a sudden, you know, good life is turning around, and people say, well, this belongs to us, this belongs to you, and so on and so forth. I won't go through the whole history of the creation of Hamas, but the original, well, it was originated from skirmishes with groups in Gaza, and the arrest of a number, rather small number of terrorists, and moved them to Lebanon. Sheikh Yassin was the head of this group, and he created a religious ideology that now is actually giving the main direction to the group, to the terrorists, and so on and so forth. They were always trying to move themselves in a way that the protectors of the poor Israeli Arabs, that is a ticking bomb in Israel from 1948. And in later years, they became the protectors of the holy places, such as Al-Aqsa. Now, in Sinai, in the Sinai desert, as well as in the Gaza Strip, there were a few settlements, kibbutzim, social group that come together to usually cultivate the land. There were a few in Sinai, and with a peace accord that was signed eventually with Egypt, they were removed peacefully, and with full understanding that that will bring better days and better years. And those who established themselves in Gaza, and those are not kibbutzim anymore, those are actually cities, had workers from Gaza, and the normal people, or the more less ideological people in Gaza, found jobs and work among these people who lived in the Gaza Strip. But then, with the situation in Lebanon and the return of Sheikh Yassin to Gaza, Hamas started to gain a lot of control. And then after the accord in Washington, where Israel was agreeing to give some 93% of Israel to the Palestinians just to appease them at the time of Carter, and then Clinton, and throughout the time, Israel always gave and gave.
Now, what year is this? What year was all that going on?
Well, the last one, when Israel was ready to give some 93% of Israel, Samaria and Judea, was in the year 2000. And but before that, there were even talks about giving the Golan Heights to Syria. Imagine the Golan Heights in the hands of Syria during the civil war in the last 10 years, 8 years. So the things is just impossible to take. But coming back to your question, what happened in Gaza Strip is that to protect the people in Gaza, Israeli soldiers lost their lives on a daily. You are being a policeman, which is not the role of a soldier. And I can tell you, I'm a soldier, I don't want to be a policeman. In order to protect, soldiers of Israel became policemen, controlling everything that's happening there. And that was a bloodshed. And a decision was made, right, wrong, indifference, by Ariel Sharon, then Prime Minister of Israel, to unilaterally, really just on the side of Israel, without any conditions, without any promises for better times from the side of the Palestinians in Gaza, but common sense tells you that if you give them what they want, they live in peace with us. However, in terrible situations where Jews are actually fighting Jews in order to uproot them from the land, children that were born in these towns in Gaza were removed forcibly from Gaza by Israeli army. Synagogues were destroyed in order not to fall into the hands of people that will desecrate them. There weren't too many of them. I think in the vicinity of 10,000 settlers in Gaza. Well, these settlers eventually were brought into Israel, and for years and years and years, it was very difficult to settle them in Israel. There was no infrastructure, where to put them, how to do it, and so on and so forth. Now, there are only 10,000 of them. I'm letting go a little bit from the main issue here. Now, when the world is telling us to evacuate Judea and Samaria, well, in Judea and Samaria, there are 500,000 Israelis. If,
A little different, yeah.
if it was impossible to settle 10,000, imagine what it is for 500,000. So,
But
we
Ron,
gave
here's a question everybody's asking. We're getting texts, we're getting all of that. All right, the Jews are out of there. Why are they firing missiles? What is, if you sat down the leadership in Gaza and saying, why are you guys firing missiles at us? What's the answer?
They hate Jews.
Well,
the answer is very simple, and I think yeah, you're right. They hate Jews, but they declare that the Jews are a foreign entity in the land of Israel. I can tell you from here to eternity that we were there before they ever came there. That Jews were there before Islam ever was created. I'm a Palestinian. Here, let me show you the passport of my own father. Can you see that?
yeah, no, the other way, like that, yeah. That says
Palestine, that's my father.
British
my father's
passport,
passport.
Palestine. Yeah.
And on the back, in this area over here, it says Eretz Israel. So even the British mandate in Israel recognized the land called Palestine as the land of Israel. On the
That's
passport,
interesting.
And
it says
Ronnie, where does the word Palestine come from? Who
From the-
invented that word?
from the Roman Empire 2,000 years ago.
And does Arabic have the sound of P for Palestine? Is there such a letter in the Arabic language, Arabic language, that sounds like a P?
Well, we don't have to be tricky about it. What we understand and what Mark said is very true. They don't want to see us there. It's not an issue of whether they like us or don't like us. They simply don't want us there. And we had to fight for survival from the get-go. And throughout history, over the last 2,000 years, not just because Jews were in Israel or the lack of Jews in Israel, Israel is a strategic place on the world's geographical map, especially in the old times. And everybody wanted to take control. What we see now, unfortunately, is that Hamas kidnapped the heart and soul of the Israeli Arabs, and I'm not talking about the Palestinian in the West Bank or Judea and Samaria. I'm talking about the Israeli Arabs that live in Israel, that have all the rights that I have, that have the same passport as I do. They have the same ability to go to schools the way I did. They are now feeling that Hamas is their saviors. They are the ones that will give them the occupied land, meaning all Israel, and there's a turmoil. Let me tell you something. I think that the issue with Gaza will come to an end pretty soon because Gaza is not able to fight Israel, and it will come to an end. What will not come to an end is this ticking bomb that was ticking until a few days ago in Israel called the Arab-Israeli, and a few days ago it exploded because the fuse that Hamas lit actually came to the point where the explosion took place. And today, I'm afraid that the Gaza or even the Lebanese situation that we saw a few moments ago in a place that our group always come in Metula, in Israel, in Metula, obviously with the full permission of Hezbollah, a group of Lebanese wanted to test the water. So they broke the fence, they came into an Israeli side of the border, and soldiers were there, and the soldiers did not want to escalate it. So they didn't shoot at them. And they were in Israel proper, but, you know, civilians. Obviously, these civilians got the green light from Hezbollah that controls the entire area. And at one point, after they tested the ground and they tested the water, all of a sudden, they moved back without the Israeli army needing to do anything special, meaning that somebody called them back from Lebanon. So it's all being organized, it's all being put together by some hierarchy, and I assume it's Hezbollah because there's no other group in Lebanon that can actually motivate or move people to do such things.
Ronnie,
So we have a problem, but the problem again, and I can't stress it more than I do, the problem is the Israeli Arabs. And as I said, it was a ticking bomb, and finally it exploded.
well, I want to correct you, Ronnie, and I very rarely correct you about Israeli Arab politics and everything like that. You said that the Arabs hate the Jews, and I got to disagree with you on that. They actually don't hate the Jews. They want to see the Jews exterminated. They want to see them wiped from the face of the earth. If all the Jews out of Israel went to Fiji tomorrow, the next day after, they'd be attacking Fiji. They hate Jews that much. A genocidal hatred of Jews on kin and on par to Hitler type of hatred of Jews.
It's interesting you say that.
And am I right about that, Ronnie?
Well, I don't want to say that this is 100% correct because I know many Arab Israelis that will not fall into this category.
I'm talking about Hamas and that type of
Yeah. No. I 100% agree with you on that.
Okay.
The Palestinians, look, we have to make a difference. We have to understand the difference between Palestinians and between Arab Israelis.
We've been trying to, I got up, I had to take this phone call. We've been trying to get a friend of ours, you know him, Ron, Arie Egozi, who lives in Rishon LeZion, very nice suburb of Tel Aviv. And
beautiful. It's right along the Mediterranean.
He's been scheduled several times and he's had to go into bomb shelters in that area. He just called and it's a little calmer there. He's going to try to come on a little later. And we got, and this is for the folks later on, Tom Trento. It's 9:35 in the morning. Susie Gold, Jay Mark, our guest right now, Roni Wexler. Monte Cristo. Up in a little bit will be David Horowitz from the David Horowitz Freedom Center. Oh, we do have him. Okay, we'll bring him on in a minute or two. But later on, we're probably going to go to 10:30 again, East Coast time. Arie Egozi is going to come on, retired IDF, but was very involved in Israel, reporting on Israel missile technology. And Steve Emerson put out a document today on the missiles being used by the Hamas, much different than the days, even when we were there few years ago.
Very sophisticated.
So we'll have Arie as an expert on the missile element, explaining what the heck is taking place. So that's coming up probably around 10:15 or so. We're going to finish up with Roni in a second, introduce David, keep Roni on, and then we're going to discuss the U.S. role in all of this. David has a new book out.
Yes, he does. It's called The Enemy Within. He's a best-selling author. He's also
Why don't you bring him in now? Let's bring him
sure,
in now.
great. Just by way of introduction, David Horowitz. He's the founder and president of the.
No, David Horowitz. Oh, we don't have him yet. We have another David.
Oh,
We have David
we have a different
Simpkins.
David.
He's coming on around 5 o'clock. Israel time.
9:40. David's coming in.
9:40 is David
Horowitz.
Okay. All these Davids we have. Let's stick with Roni then. Go ahead. You were in the middle of a
All these
conversation.
Jews named David. That's
I know, you know. David. Well, David was a pretty good warrior and
King David.
and the
That's
whole
when
deal.
we say Psalms to Tehillim.
Yeah.
Those were written by King
Not bad.
David,
Not
the
bad.
son of King Solomon, right?
So, Ron, how does this thing end?
Well, unfortunately, it's not going away anytime soon. The situation with Gaza will come to an end rather quickly. It never. They can't stand. They can't withstand Israel for too long. Their missiles, as much as they are sophisticated, are only sophisticated because of the numbers that they shoot at the same time. The Iron Dome is accuracy is about 90%. So when you shoot 100 bombs, 100 missiles, 10 of them would land somewhere. Thank God that many of the 10 that escaped the Iron Dome are not creating much of damage. But we have deaths in Israel. We have kids in Israel that died. I can tell you also another thing that maybe in the West they don't talk about. I know that some of the channels are showing Palestinian bodies of children and so on and so forth. Of all the missiles that were shot, listen to me now, from all the missiles that were shot from Gaza, 30% of them landed in Gaza. You see the difference between the border in Gaza into the kibbutz that we all went and visited in all our trips to Israel is less than 1 mile. So to shoot at this kibbutz and to shoot with missile that is not very accurate, to fall short of the kibbutz, where would it fall? It falls on Gaza. Where in Gaza? In the most poorest of areas. In Sajadiya, in place where really people are living in a terrible situation and they can't escape. So a lot of those missiles do fall on their own people. I think that Israel, as much as it was and doom, the way and gloom, the way they shot last night and all hell broke loose, they are very accurate. They're aiming exactly the place they want to hit. So yeah, sure, you know, the casualties. There's always innocent people that getting caught, but Israel is doing surgically maneuvers in order to not kill innocent people. Really, I believe that in Gaza, if they lay down their arms, people in Gaza, many of them will put it aside and try to create a better world for themselves. And one thing to solve the problem in Gaza, and I say it as much as I would sound crazy, is to put a lot of money by the world into Gaza, to give them a chance to build their own infrastructure, to build hospitals, to build power stations, even a port. Yeah, it will be supervised by Israel. But if these people have something to live for, I believe, I may be wrong, but I believe that if you have something to lose, your own people will tell you not to do crazy stuff. But now they really don't have anything. 70% of Gaza youth is not working. So what else is there for them to do? You know, unfortunately, you come to this point, you have to give them a blow that will be very, very, very hard to come back. But once this is over and the dust settles, I think Israel needs to come together with our friends around the world and to come up with a solution that will put Hamas in their crazy way of thinking, to think twice.
All right, the last question, Ron. Right about now, we have seen this so many times. The Hamas starts playing the victim card. In fact, ironically, there was going to be a pro-Hamas rally in Orlando this weekend, and a bunch of people supporting Israel were organizing to be there and observe. And it was headed up by CARE, Council on American Islamic Relations. Well, they canceled it yesterday, and they put out a letter saying that the pro-Israel community, Jews and Christians, are organizing, and we don't feel safe having our rally.
Oh, my heart goes out.
We don't feel safe, so we're canceling our rally. Please donate, right?
Oh, you know what that proves? That proves right there is when you stand up to these people, they back down. That's strong horse, weak horse. Hold on, no.
But I'm making the illustration
Hold on.
to Gaza that right about now, Ron, every 7 years or so, to the United Nations, they go to the Emirates, they go to Washington, and they start saying, "Oh, they're beating us up. They're beating us up. Stop, stop, stop." Is Netanyahu going to stop, or will there be a demilitarization? That's the question.
Well, Israel cannot afford to stop now, but it's a mathematical equation. You know, we go further into Gaza, and we have fauda in Israel. We have chaos in Israel. So you know, what do you need to deal with when you can go safe now in the street of Jaffa and Tel Aviv, not because of missiles, because of hoodlums, you know, from both sides. You know, the Jews and the Arabs in Israel have factions that are uncontrollable at the moment, and the police in Israel is not equipped to deal with this. So we have chaos in Israel, and that frightens me more than Gaza. I know with Gaza we can deal, but with the Trojan horse in Israel, it's very, very hard to deal. You know, a few days ago in Jerusalem Day, I mentioned that. Tom?
Yeah.
Good question.
On the beginning of the week, on the Jerusalem Day, before this whole thing exploded, I mentioned that, and I don't think too many people listen to it. This Arab-Israeli situation is a ticking bomb, and unfortunately, the fuse came to an end and it exploded. So to me, this is far more important to resolve than the issue in Gaza or even Lebanon, because in both situations, I believe Israel is strong enough to deal with the situations. I'm not so sure about how Israel is dealing with the internal situation with mixed cities and Arab cities, and this is something that I don't think in Israel anybody thought would come to this kind of inflamed situation. We steps away now from Shabbat, and it's a perfect storm. Ramadan, Eid al-Fitr, Nakba Day is tomorrow, Shavuot is in 2 days. All these motifs are adding oil to the fire, and I'm not sure how we can handle this.
So we have this, you know, ongoing fighting that's happening with Gaza, and then we have the internal unrest and that's happening in the streets of Israel, which we haven't seen to this extent. So what's going on the borders? Like how is with Jordan, and with Lebanon? Can you give us an update on those regions?
I obviously, what I say is just my own analysis. I'm
Right.
not talking on behalf of the government of Israel. I'm not a soldier
Mhm.
anymore. But I can tell you that Jordan does not need a war with Israel, and they are not looking for a war in Israel. Same thing, even more so, I can say about Egypt. Lebanon does not want a war with Israel, but Lebanon is a lame government. Hezbollah took over and they're controlling it. Does Hezbollah want war with Israel? I'm not sure that that's true either. So everybody wants to keep tension alive. I think that's the story. Thousands of Jordanians were marching to the border of Israel earlier today, and they were in skirmishes with Jordanian army that tried to stop them from moving and getting closer to Israel. So governments, especially those that are in peace, whether it's real peace or minor peace or whatever, these people don't want to escalate the situation. The truth of the matter is that they don't care much about the Palestinians either. But when Hamas comes and kidnaps the notion that they are now the guardians of Al-Aqsa, even those countries say, oh, wow, how can we stand against it? At least we have somebody that fights for Al-Aqsa. Let me tell you something. Before 1967, nobody ever came to a pilgrimage to Jerusalem. All of a sudden it became the third most holy place in Islam. Nobody ever came to Jerusalem from abroad to visit Al-Aqsa. Now all of a sudden, it's next to Mecca. So it's all politics. So I'm afraid that even the Emirates that we started with such a beautiful relationship with, and Morocco and Bahrain, all these people cannot stop because they have their own population to please and appease. And when people talk about the guardians of Al-Aqsa, it becomes a little bit hard for these governments to stand idle, and they must do something. And I'm not sure where it's going to go, but I don't think there will be.
My head is
total war.
boiling.
I don't think there will be total war in the Middle East because of that.
All right, Roni
What
Wexler.
happened to COVID
Yeah,
and all
what
these
happened?
gatherings? I don't know. Is it?
My head is going to explode. Oh, man. Roni, thank you very much for being with us today. It's
Always a
Shabbat.
wealth of
I guess it's Shabbat over
information.
there
Is
and
it ready to
coming
almost
down
start?
close here. Dr. Roni Wexler, thank you. We're going to let you go, and we're going to chew on some of this stuff, our crew here. We'll contact you over the weekend if something big happens. The whole thing is big. If not, Monday we'll be back on the air with you. I think we're going to take our gold team and bring them all in the second hour. Have our show the first hour. The second hour, instead of our meeting, we'll bring them in and get they're all leaders. We'll get their thoughts, something like that. All right. Say goodbye to Dr. Roni Wexler, everybody.
Hi, Roni. Thank you so much for all your information and insights.
We appreciate it. Unbelievable. What this is reminiscent of. This is scary. And Roni doesn't scare easily, but you got Gaza, it's contained, it's a military deal. I gotta figure it out. When you have the street erupt, the Arab street, and you know where they're getting this from? Black lives. They saw what can be done in the United States of America. You can terrorize 50 cities. You can burn and loot, and you make $1 billion.
Right.
They're just following.
It's very profitable.
It's profitable. Now, the problem is over there, here they're little skinny little, what do they call them? Soy boys.
Mama boys.
Yeah, little mama boys, and they're all in their helmets, and they're playing bad guys. There, the Arab kids are going to have weapons, and they're going to start getting shot. So there's going to be dead teenagers attacking soldiers, and the thing's going to escalate in the street. And the Arab world now is calling for Muslims all over.
Mhm.
We're
All
at a-
over the world.
We're at a very bizarre moment in
And they
history.
did disperse. They dispersed around the world, and they said they would destroy countries from the inside out.
Now, Mark, let's play the 1, 2. It'd be the van driving through Boca Raton. We're going to play a video. You were at this rally.
Mhm.
Did you see this van
I'm not sure which
Oh,
one you're referring
with
to.
the words? It was a rental van. It's by that Jew hate group, the
Oh.
Goyim group.
Oh, the Goyim group. They
They-
were there
yeah.
in Boca? I
They-
didn't see
Well,
that.
yeah, your rabbi was there, like yelling at them, right?
Oh.
So you may have left or something, or they may have come back. But you got to check this video out. There's a group of Jew haters,
Uh-huh.
and you got to read what's on the side of the van. The point is, what's happening in Israel right now is lighting a fuse for these kinds of people, crazy people. Remember the video I showed you yesterday on the bridge?
Mhm.
Those same people.
Yes. Oh, okay.
They rented a van. They went to Miami. They went to Boca. They drove around yelling. Wherever there's a pro-Israel crowd, this group of 5 or 6 guys is going
The guy
around.
with the swastika
Yeah, yeah.
nose?
Yeah,
guy-
the swastika necklace.
He's wearing a gold swastika. Now he got arrested. They went down to Miami. They did get arrested for what's on their van. You'll see it. We'll read it. Point is, what's happening in the Middle East is igniting this type of activity here.
Oh, Arabs aligning with Nazis, what a surprise.
Is this live? Is this live?
Yeah, you play the-
Yeah.
video.
Let's go to. Yeah. He's calling for de-escalation. Let's hear this. All right, we're going right now. It's 9:53 in the morning. And again, this is live television, folks, here. We're going to go to President Biden.
But I expect I'll be having some more discussions. And we hadn't just spoken with the Israelis, with the Egyptians, the Saudi and others. So it's a work in progress right now.
We are deeply concerned with the loss of life among civilians, especially among children. Palestinians have a right to live in security and to live in peace, just as Israelis do.
And Martin, on this subject, is certainly a new era of the White House administration. We're left to question.
All right, now it's just going to be mumbo jumbo. Let's go back to a van yesterday in Boca Raton. And again, these are the beginnings of what could be a very, very serious problem here in the United States. Then we'll go out to Israel to our friend David, because I don't think David Horowitz is with us yet, right?
No.
Okay. So David in Israel, get ready. We're going to come to you in about 5 minutes.
We'll play that video.
We'll
right?
play the video. Jew hate group.
Back, here we go.
Here we go. Check this out.
Yeah.
Now, outside of the van, they're obviously Palestinian flag, and on the side of the van is Hitler was right. So they rented a van and they wrote, even if it's removable, whatever,
Mhm.
they wrote on the van. It's how crazy these people are. Hitler was right. And a letter's gone out by Jewish organizations. You saw that letter? Telling everybody, just ignore these people.
Yes, and
They're-
just like don't inflame the situation.
engage,
Stay away
leave 'em
from
alone.
them. Don't engage.
Well,
I think what I saw was that there were a handful, right?
there's 5 of them. Yeah.
5 of them, and they're just going from area to area, and they're just they're clearly just
They're
anti-Semites.
antagonizing Jewish groups. But again, they're making the news, and rightfully so. They're doing stupid stuff that has a newsworthy element to it, and then that inflames others. Hey, let's try that. We'll try that. So if the longer this conflict, this war continues, the more trouble there's going to be in the United States. In fact, we are planning a very large pro-America, pro-Israel rally in about a week.
Mhm.
So as we get our act together, we'll tell people about that. But before we bring David on,
Can I bring up a quick point about that?
yeah, let me mention one thing first.
Oh, here's that video again.
Yeah, there's the video playing. Some of the folks following what we're doing are involved with Rescuers Without Borders in Israel. And the website, and if you can contact us, we'll give you all the information. The website is www.hatzalah.org.il. Hatzalah, hatzalah.org.il. And essentially, there are volunteers running around Israel right now helping first responders.
Hatzalah is
They need equipment.
it's an organization that sometimes they have motorcycles, they have people volunteer, doctors, not just people, but people who are trained.
Says the nurse,
medically.
she's a nurse.
Yeah, and there are nurses, there's doctors, there are just volunteers who have learned first aid. And they actually, their response time is so short so that they can get to a situation. And if it's an area that a car can't get through, they do have motorcycles and they have all this health equipment that's on the motorcycle so that they could go and preserve life, because that's what Israel does, is they preserve life. They ensure that their citizens are safe. They make sure that there's shelters. They make sure there's medical equipment. And Hatzalah, they need money desperately. It is a volunteer organization, but they do need more motorcycles and they do need more equipment so that they are the first responders on the scene. And oftentimes within seconds or minutes, because so many people volunteer, they could be right down the street. They could be next door. So Hatzalah is a fabulous organization. Actually, there's a Hatzalah in New York. Did you know that? And this talk
we can put the website.
There's talk of a Hatzalah forming here in Florida as well. So that they could get there quicker than many of the ambulances can.
We'll put the information in the body of this show after the show is taped. And contact us, Tom at TheUnitedWest.org, and we'll get you in touch with the folks that are raising money here for them. So very, very good cause. So you write them a big check, then you write us a very big check.
Yeah,
So,
we need money
yeah,
desperately so that we can continue getting this
Okay.
accurate information out. And that we're not just giving information, but we're also ensuring that people know what action steps to take. For instance, as we disclose soon where our next rally will be. So other kinds of such things that we could do by writing to our congressmen, our senators. There's a lot of action items so that we're not just listening and learning and shaking our head, but we're doing something about it that can positively impact this whole situation.
One of the representatives for Hatzalah is telling me right now, they're watching. We need vests, helmets desperately. Vests, bulletproof vests, shrapnel, all of that, medical vests and helmets. So simple stuff. You go, well, how come they can't get it? Israel's a little country fighting a lot of people, and America and other nations reach out and help at these times. So, all right, let's bring, go ahead, Mark had something.
Yeah, I want to bring up something real quick about the guy in the van saying Hitler was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last time people thought Hitler was right, there was a group of people out there, and I just want to show who that was. Who agreed with Hitler, who thought he was right at the time he was doing it, which was King Husseini, the Grand Mufti of Jerusalem, the leader of the Arab world at the time. So whenever you see Jews, whenever you see Nazis aligning with Jews, bad thing, bad thing.
And it's it's nothing new. What do you have, a video of?
I just have a picture of it.
Hashemini? Yeah, throw him up there.
Yeah, there he is. He's on right now. Screen. Main screen.
No, nothing.
Nothing's there.
Yeah, well, you're offline.
Yeah, we are, I think.
I think so.
Anyway, we have
Do we
David.
have David Horowitz yet?
David Simpkins.
No, David Horowitz, I think, had another issue, but we have David Simpkins coming on. Then we have Barry Shaw. Then we have Arie Egozi. So stay with us. It's 10 o'clock right now, 5 o'clock in Israel. The next three people, our next three guests are in Israel right now. So Roni Wexler gave us a little insight as an Israeli living in America as to what's going on. And now we're going to David, our buddy. David, how are you? How you
David,
doing?
welcome.
Hi, nice to see you guys again.
Good to see you. I don't see him, but good to see you.
Oh, you don't see me at all? I'm
I see
sorry.
how we got you.
Yeah, we got you. We
We
got
got
you.
you.
Understood.
We have to just tweak a few things here. Look, without giving away exactly where you are, what part of the country are you in?
Judea and Samaria.
Okay. All right. Talk to us, David. What the heck is going on?
Well, I'm right next to a fairly major Arab populated city. So it was quite normal to hear fireworks, on a daily basis, maybe up to twice a week of gunfire. Well, with all the festivities going on right now for Ramadan, I suppose, there's been quite a bit of action lately. It's been lots of explosions now neighboring this area, clashing with the IDF. And of course, I don't know, last night just got eerily quiet in comparison to how it's been for the rest of the week. So yeah, but now there's been a lot of fires too.
Oh, wow, I missed that. What'd you say?
A lot of fires have been going on too. Quite a few they've started all over the place. It's just constant.
What, now you were living there, then you came back here. How long have you been back in Israel?
I've been back for about 6 months now.
What is your take on two elements? What's going on in Gaza, and then the tension, the situation in the West Bank, Judea, Samaria?
Okay, well, my take is quite simple. I think it's all 100% linked to when the election cycle produced the results that it produced, how they produced those results. I'm not going to speculate or comment right now, but whatever the case, I kind of looked at my brother and I said, we're going to be at war in Israel this summer.
You were talking about the U.S. election?
Yeah, the U.S. election cycle, right? So when that occurred right there, and I saw the outcome, whether or not I believe for certain that's what happened. Point is, I said, we're going to be at war in Israel this summer. And he said, yeah, you sure you want to get on that plane tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'm sure. So sure enough, Taylor Force Act got totally reversed. And of course, that's how we met. He was my friend. And he already started sending money to the Palestinian Authority. Who thought anything other than this was going to happen? That's what I want to know.
Well, there's a lot there. I don't know if you met Susie Gold.
We never met. Pleasure
No.
to have you on. Pleasure to meet you.
She's been on our trips. Somehow we missed getting you two guys together. But
It happened.
You mentioned the change in administration. We were working very hard here in Florida to get Donald Trump reelected, and we were very successful. The TheUnitedWest, at an educational program, we mobilized Jews and Christians, and we're arguing if the other side wins, if Biden wins, then we'd hit the economy, we'd hit the cultural issues. Then when we came to national security and Israel, we said the Middle East will be in flames. I mean, we were saying this a year ago.
Right.
Yeah.
You and I and us here, we're not geniuses.
Mhm.
We just know strong horse, weak horse. You got a strong guy, the Arabs take a step back. You got a weak horse, they take a step forward. We have a weak horse. And Taylor Force, tell that story, because people don't understand the Taylor Force Act. And we've been contacted by many people who have said the Biden administration is operating illegally over against the Taylor Force Act. Talk about your friend, what happened, the act, and the situation now.
Yeah, certainly. So just want to start off and say, basically, when I was at the academy, Taylor Force and I were members of the same class. So we had several classes together during the first 2 years. We maintained contact over the years. So when he said he was coming to Israel, we had plans back in 2016 to go ahead and meet up in Jerusalem for a couple of drinks, just to catch up. We hadn't seen each other in years. So unfortunately, he was on this trip because he was just learning from the startups in Tel Aviv. He was getting his MBA at Vanderbilt. He actually had already been through Afghanistan and Iraq on tours, and of course, no scratches. But then he just happened to be walking down the wrong street, wrong place, wrong time in Tel Aviv, Yafo, and he got knifed right between his neck and collarbone. So he bled out very quickly. He died. That was all occurring while Biden was meeting with Perez at the Perez Peace Center. Of course, at the time, he was the vice president. So then what occurred was, one thing.
Hang on, David.
Sure.
Hang on 1 second. When Taylor Force was killed in Yafo, we had just arrived in Tel Aviv on our tour, and we had heard it happen the day before, and it actually was across the street from our hotel. The yellow police tape was still up, and that's where the jihadi who stabbed him was chased, shot, and killed. And Roni Wexler was with us. You saw him earlier. We went over. There was a parking lot there, and we were asking if anyone knew anything about what happened, and it was really bizarre. Ronnie's speaking Hebrew to the people, and the guy says, "Let me talk to." The guy was on duty, speaks to the guy who was on duty, and the guy who was on duty said, "I have videotape of the police taking the jihadi down." And we went, "What?" And we negotiated a price, and right there, I think you did it, Mark, right? We transferred that footage from his phone to our phone, and we did a video on it, and we put that video out, and we got behind, something has to be done, and then pick up from there, David, how the U.S. Congress passed a law.
Yeah, it took until Trump was elected because Obama's administration immediately shut down any sort of an act, which was the Taylor Force Act, which would cut any funding whatsoever to the Palestinian Authority. So what the act essentially did under Trump was it cut U.S. funding to the Palestinian Authority until they would change their laws. And what are these laws? These laws say that when there's a terrorist who executes a successful or unsuccessful operation, it doesn't matter. He's a martyr. Great. They're going to pay his family huge sums of money monthly now for the rest of their lives, I suppose. Let's just say this guy goes to prison. They capture him alive. He's going to go ahead and start accruing a monthly salary. It's going to be building up in this bank account. And then it's going to, lead to him getting a rank in the government or their police equivalent, or the higher the rank will be completely in line with how long he spent in prison. So the more time he spent in Israeli prison, the higher his rank will be, and the more money he will have. And then he's going to be courted by everybody in the Palestinian Authority for, to marry one of their daughters. So basically all this terrorism is completely rewarded. There's absolutely no motivation for them to cease these activities as long as these laws stay there. So when Trump passed that act, it was really a positive thing. And also terrorism in Israel, it went down to less than half of the attacks, almost overnight with his election. So fast forward to today, as soon as Biden won the election, so Abbas went ahead and scrubbed the laws because he was expecting that. Of course, now I'm going to go ahead and get it together. But if he was serious, he would have done that while Trump was president. It's because he's going to create these back doors. They had that all set up, knowing that the Democrats just want to see the surface areas clean, and they're not going to check underneath to see how that's going to continue forward. So that's what we're looking at right now. Is Pay for Slay is totally back online, but it's just now masked.
You've heard David just now say, pay for slay. It's usually pay to play, right? You pay to play.
Right.
Well, the little ditty there is pay for slay. You slay a Jew, you get paid.
Right.
Unbelievable. All right. In terms of the Arab street now starting to get invigorated, a la Black Lives over here, what's your sense in Judea Samaria?
Well, yeah. Basically, whenever you drive around in Judea Samaria now, it's a lot more frequent that Arabs are going to be in the streets, either starting fires near the streets or throwing rocks. And, I sent you that picture the other night there. So you guys still have that one, or you guys going to be able to show that?
I don't know. I'm getting so many pictures from all over the place.
Oh, yeah. It was in Facebook. I sent it to you. You have to check there if you could put that up. But basically, what happened was we're driving along in this bus, and of course, all the buses in our area are armored. So what occurred right there was just out of nowhere, boom, this huge dent. It was the same sound as when I had a 7.62 round impact the passenger side windshield glass. I'm sorry, not windshield glass, the window glass of my MRAP vehicle in Kandahar. It sounded just like a bullet, but it wasn't a bullet, it was a rock. And it was a fairly sizable rock too. I mean, so it looked like a bullet had hit it, but there was no bullet in the middle of that site. So I learned a couple of things there. One, the buses, they're armored for a reason, but the armor works. Just kind of felt bad for all the, this is a civilian target, obviously. We know they don't differentiate. Just felt bad for all the girls on that bus. They were pretty shaken up. And there were like 3 different men who were armed because they're legally allowed to carry weapons in this area. So, they were all ready to go. One of them already on the phone with the police reporting basically the grid coordinates of where we were. And, they dealt with it. But then right after that round hit, we passed 3 fires.
Mark, hang on, David. I just sent you the picture of what he's talking about.
Right.
I found it. We're going to put it up as you're speaking, David.
Yeah,
let me get everybody up to date here. Susie, a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
Unbelievable. Susie
And we have
Gold.
great guests today.
David's great. Yeah.
Wealth of information.
Served in the U.S. Army, all of that. Tom Trento, Susie Gold, Jay Mark. We got Monte Cristo over here. We got Wet Boy over there. Stay away over there. David Simpkins is our guest, good friend of ours that we met, sadly, through the Teller Force execution. It was an execution. And then stayed in touch. He hung out with Damon quite a bit back then. Damon's here right now. Damon Rosen, one of our folks. And when this started, when we had a meeting with Roni Wexler, David, Monday, we have a team here that's carrying out our success from the Trump campaign, our success in Florida, to stand against the jihadis, the Marxists, all of that, and the Biden administration. When we had a meeting on Monday and Roni briefed us, hey, all this stuff we're looking at in Israel, it's getting real bad. And Roni was very concerned, and he's very stable and doesn't
usually very positive.
Very positive. Yeah. We said something's up.
Very somber.
So Monday afternoon, we dug in very deeply and we said, let's go on the air. There's going to be a war. And we did this in 2014. We covered it. So we've been covering it every day, David, 9 a.m. here in Florida, 4 over there. We go an hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, probably 2 hours today. We're going to bring your picture up and explain to the folks what they're looking at here.
They're looking at right there is where a rock impacted the windshield. Somebody threw that at the bus, the intent to obviously either destroy the windshield so they could throw more rocks and get the driver and take the entire bus down, or to just be able to throw more rocks and hit civilians inside who were passengers. So that right there was caused by a rock, not a bullet, although it looks like one. And that glass is bulletproof. But that's what that rock can do. These guys throw rocks with the speed of Major League Baseball players. Don't make any mistake about that. They're far deadlier in some ways than bullets can be.
We saw some.
Slings.
I was just going to say,
Yeah. You'd think so.
We have pictures of them like slinging these rocks, and it's like, you think a rock is like, okay, the size, that you put in your hand,
size of your fist.
About a baseball that you could break a window with a big.
I've heard you can bring. I've heard you can
baseball.
bring down a really big, like a Goliath of a person with one of those.
You really can't.
That's funny. Goliath of a person. Okay, I gotta do some stuff here.
So tell us what's going. I know you're
in Judea and Samaria, and there was some major situation that occurred in Gaza. Could you tell us and maybe recap what occurred earlier today when there were flyers that were sent out? I believe you can clarify more, but within Gaza, that Netanyahu went on TV and he said that there was going to be a land invasion of troops going into Gaza. And then the Gazans responded to what they thought was going to be a major force that was going in to that region. So tell us about what occurred.
Waiting to get on the show. I have information of the question.
Who's that?
That was
Barry Shaw.
Is he on? He should be there. Yeah. Tell him to hang on. Tell him to hang on.
he's there.
We'll be, Barry.
Barry
we'll be
has some information about what my question was.
Yeah.
Well, let's go to Barry.
Yeah,
and
then we'll come back
set
for
it up
your
for David.
comments. Yeah.
All right, Barry Shaw, we're going at 10:16, 5:16 in the afternoon in Israel. Barry Shaw, are you with us?
Yes. I am, but I don't have your meeting passcode, so I can't get on properly on the computer.
Oh, he's on.
I just sent it to you through the your email. So come on back in a couple of minutes so we can.
He's on.
Got him?
He's on.
Magic. We worked it.
Obviously, we're live.
Barry's in Netanya. You're in Netanya right now, right?
He's muted for some reason. There we go.
I got Barry.
All right, Barry, unzip your lips. We need to hear Barry talk. And David, hang in. I want to introduce you to Barry Shaw. I don't know if you've met him.
Negative.
There's somebody else on too.
All right, we're looking at Susie Gold. Oh, there's Ronnie sitting there.
I think Arie.
Yeah, so we're waiting for Barry Shaw to come on. Barry Shaw is an expert, a subject expert.
Middle East affairs, Israel stuff. Made Aliyah like 100 years ago.
Comes on quite often.
Yeah, and let's see what we're doing here. We got a lot of moving parts. What you're seeing, folks, is we have three phones.
Yeah.
Mark's got two phones. Texting, messages coming in. People want to make comments, pictures coming in. We got feeds coming in from 7,000 miles away. Trying to get Barry hooked up here.
I want to properly introduce Barry before he comes on.
Yeah, you get our Egozi.
Let's go with Egozi first.
Okay.
Well, Barry's dead.
No, hold off, Barry. We got Arie Egozi. Arie, you there?
Yes, I'm here. How are you?
Our brother, it's been a while. How are you?
Welcome.
Yes, I'm okay.
Under these circumstances, it's unfortunate, but very good to see you again.
Circumstances are complicated. A few minutes ago, we could hear another salvo of rockets exploding in Ashkelon, which is 40 kilometers south of where I live. Riots in the West Bank just started, and the situation doesn't seem good. Last night, the IDF managed to destroy much of the metro city, the tunnels that the Hamas dug underneath Gaza, but they still have the capability to launch rockets, and they do it. The city of Ashkelon, which is a city 45 kilometers from here, on the beach, only today was hit by 200 rockets. The Iron Dome managed to intercept most of it, but people are hurt. People are in the shelters. Situation is very tense.
And Arie, the folks who have been following the United West know you well. You've been on many, many times, but you're retired IDF. You're a writer. You publish military information. You're very familiar with obviously all the military elements of a conflict. Talk to us a little bit about the evolution of the rockets that have been flying out of Gaza over the past 10 years and what's coming now that's reaching anywhere in the country.
The Hamas began developing the rocket something like 15 years ago. They started with primitive versions using water pipes, but in recent years they managed to improve to upgrade the rockets by technical help that they received from Iran. And now they have rockets with some of them with a range of 250 kilometers. Yesterday, they hit a target. They wanted to hit the Ramon airport near Eilat, but the rocket traveled some 200 kilometers in southern Israel. Yesterday, they introduced a new system, a drone, an armed drone that they have received from Iran. 4 of them were launched from the Gaza. They were intercepted by the Iron Dome. So they have improved their arsenal. But thanks God that we have the Iron Dome, which shoots down 90% of the rockets and other threats. But enough for 10% to cause death. The young child, 6-year-old, that was killed yesterday in Ashdod. He was in the safe room, but a shrapnel from a rocket that hit an adjacent building went through the reinforced window and killed him. His mother is also badly wounded in a hospital. So 90% is not enough, but 90% is what we can get. Last night, the IDF performed a combination of a deception and massive attack on Gaza. The IDF moved some battalions of tanks near the border. So the Hamas anticipated a ground operation. Some of them went into the tunnels. Some of them went out to meet the Israeli ground forces that they thought will enter Gaza. And minutes later, the Israeli Air Force, with 160 fighter aircraft that took off from 6 bases, hit the what we call the under the metro city, the web of tunnels under Gaza. Hundreds, I think, of Hamas members were buried alive in the tunnels. The damage is immense, the damage. We saw some pictures. Just imagine 160 aircraft using heavy bombs. And the damage is even, I cannot describe the damage. When the Hamas leaders will come out of their shelters, they will be surprised. They will be surprised of the damage that has been inflicted on Gaza. But of course, they can still launch rockets, and we still have to be very cautious to not to get hurt. Can you hear me, Tom?
Yeah, no, we're listening to every word.
Yeah.
I got a question for you, Arie. We have a lot of questions for you. Barry, we're going to come to you in a couple of minutes because I know you have some information on that. We have been over your house. You've hosted us at your lovely home. You live in a very, very nice suburb. You have some fine wine, red wine, and you're a retired military guy, but you were running around the other night when I was calling you, hiding in bomb shelters. What was going through your mind when all of that was going on?
In most of the houses, the new house in Israel, we have a safe room, which is made of concrete with a window protected by heavy steel. And we went down from our bedroom. In the last 2 nights, we slept in this room because we don't want to run at 2 a.m. in the morning from the upper store to the shelter. And it's not. We can hear the intercept of the Iron Dome above our heads. I can hear the different sound of the intercept, and in minutes you can hear 6, 8, or 10 intercept above your house, which is not a good feeling. But thanks God that the Iron Dome does its job. To tell you that it's a good feeling to spend the night in a safe room, no, it's not a good feeling. But this time, Israel rejected any pressure from the US, from some European countries for a ceasefire. And this time, I think Israel goes all the way to bring the Hamas with the white flag to the fence. And I think that this is going to happen. A few minutes ago, Benjamin Netanyahu said in a press conference that the IDF will hunt down all the Hamas leaders. And this time, Israel will not accept any proposal for ceasefire.
Wow.
Wow.
Mark, you had a question? Big news. That's very big news.
Wow.
Yeah, I have a question. My question is strategic importance. Hamas has launched over 2,000 rockets. Now, there's only so many bullets in the Iron Dome defense system. How many? I mean, and if Hezbollah were to launch their entire missile battery, is there enough defenses in the Iron Dome system to handle? What's the amount of, how many bullets you got left in your gun, basically, in the Iron Dome gun? And what is David's shield too, if you don't mind?
You understand that I cannot get into numbers, of course. But if Hezbollah, which has an arsenal of 140,000 rockets, some of them very, very heavy and accurate, Israel will have to attack Lebanon, which is a country controlled by the Hezbollah. But this time, I think the attacks will be like the carpet attacks that we saw in the Vietnam War, because Israel, with 140,000 rockets launched from Lebanon, the war will look different. I think that Israel will have to cut water and electricity to all Lebanon, because if the Hezbollah will begin to launch the heavy rockets, some of them with the 400-kilogram warheads, Israel will have to go wild, really go wild.
And how many bullets are left in the Iron Dome system? Is there a limit?
I just explained. I cannot go into numbers. I'm under censorship orders. I cannot go into.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And what's a David? What's a David?
What's a David? Rolls-Royce, but their horsepower, they say sufficient. Horsepower, they got sufficient ammo.
And what's the David Shield thing? Just explain that. That's the David Shield.
What are the other two layers of anti-missile defense systems?
Israel has a 4-tiered rocket and missile system. The lower tier is the Iron Dome. Then there is the David Sling, which intercepts longer range rockets and missiles. Then you have the Arrow 3, and now they are working on the Arrow 4, which is against ballistic missiles like the Iranian have. And a few weeks ago, the Israel aerospace industries successfully tested a new system called the Barak ER, extended range, which can hit targets 150 kilometers range, including cruise missiles and hypersonic missiles, the new types that are being developed now by Iran. So Israel has a multi-tiered protection system, which works very well. But as I said, if the Hezbollah will try to attack us with big salvos of heavy missiles, the reaction of Israel would be very, very, very wild and massive.
On one of my trips to Israel, I think apart from the tour, I spent time with Arie, and we went different places, and he introduced me to, I interviewed him, Uzi Rubin, who is one of the fathers of Israeli missile technology, and just a normal guy, sitting down, having coffee and discussing things, and and building these systems, amazing systems of defense. All right, Arie, hang on. We're going to go to Barry Shaw up in Netanya and get his insight on this Arab street rioting that's going on, Barry Shaw. You had some comments on that. Share that with us, please.
Yeah, okay, Tom, before I come to that, I want to strengthen what Arie was saying, because I want your viewers to understand that what they may have missed or maybe have witnessed was probably one of the most brilliant military decoy operations since Second World War. The only difference was if the decoy operation of the Second World War was to get the Germans to believe that the Allies were going to land in one place when actually the plan was landing somewhere else. The brilliance of this operation, this is what Israel did, was they wanted to attract most of the Hamas military elite to one specific area. And they did that by a lot of decoy operations. What they did during the day yesterday was they dropped hundreds of thousands of leaflets from the air warning the people in the area to leave because there was going to be a military operation. After that, they were phoning the homes. And what we saw in the late afternoon, early evening was, in fact, the population of the particular targeting area leave their homes. At the same time, what was going on also, there were a lot of hints going on by people, even up to Benjamin Netanyahu, hinting of a potential ground operation. And as Arie said, the tanks were there, but there were also some reservist soldiers brought up to the front. And I want to tell you, in the deception, we were helped by this by a lot of the foreign media, including some of your American fake news media, people like the Washington Post and ABC, that they were recurring that the Israeli troops have entered the Gaza Strip as conflict with the Palestinians escalate. Right? So all the rumors were going around, and this confirmed to Hamas that something was going on. What they had over there in the Caesarea area, which we know from previous conflict, which is a network, as Arie said, of tens of miles of terror tunnels where they keep their weapons. They even store a lot of their rockets there as well. So what observers were finding was the Hamas were reorganizing and removing their fighters. They were trying to get the rockets out of the underground places, and trucks were coming up to take them away. But in the meantime, they were bringing in their fighters. And what was going in that area during the late afternoon, evening, is they were setting up like booby traps in the tree, and anti-tank traps and booby traps and things like this. So we watched all this movement going on. And then after midnight, we hurled at them what they called the circle of fire. We had the coordinates all the time. The people had left, and then we let loose. We let loose from land, sea, and air. We hit them in certain specified areas, particularly the entrances and exits of, as Arie said, the terror tunnels, which we call the metro, the Gaza metro under the ground. And what we heard, not only explosions, but secondary explosions, which means that when we were hitting with the targets in the buildings and the houses and the tunnel exits, but the secondary explosions were either the rockets, the missiles, the armaments, and everything that were exploding again. And we were hearing the panic in the intelligence of the Hamas, who were talking, that they were shouting that they're going through hell right now. As I say, it's too early to assess the damage, but as Arie says, the damage there was enormous.
Arie, Barry, hang on for 1 second. Arie, in 2018, Roni Wexler had our group in Israel and with Judge Janine, and we were fortunate to be involved in the moving of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. We were in Tiberias one night. Remember that?
That's right. Yeah.
We're in Tiberias, one of the hotels there. And all of a sudden, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, you hear jets whizzing by, and you hear explosions in the air. That's when launched from Syria. I think there were some missiles were launched. They were knocked down by the Iron Dome,
and some landed in Syria,
in
their own territory.
And I think there were 50 target sites hit by the IAF, but you could hear the jets flying around. There was, a handful of them. Arie, what the heck? How do you manage 160 supersonic jets flying over a little tiny area, shooting dropping big bombs in very precise places? How do the logistics of that work?
That's a very good question. And knowing the Israeli Air Force, visiting the bases, the Israeli Air Force has a very advanced system of simulators, connected simulators. The pilots are coming to this center of connected simulators almost every 2 months to simulate and to train these big operations. And before every such operation, the pilots are going to this huge simulator, and above that, the IAF has a very advanced air control system based on Israeli developed radio and data transfer systems. So every aircraft knows where he is, and each pilot knows where his friend is. So I agree that this is an amazing operation with 160 aircraft and UAVs and other things in the air on a very limited area of Gaza. This is an amazing operation, but in fact, it worked.
I want to add to what Arie said, that it wouldn't have worked if we hadn't had the military intelligence and we hadn't got to extraordinary steps in order to ensure that the civilian population had been removed from the area. And that is a massive operation. That is itself is something that will come up in the future, because I promise you, next week, when the anti-Israel hatred, including in the media over there, and also in the Biden administration, start taking their attacks at Israel, they will forget about everything that went before. And in order to protect ourselves, we go to extraordinary measures in order to protect not only our civilians, but theirs as well. We go to more steps to remove their population from danger than Hamas does. And that is quite an operation in itself. And it's vitally important because the IDF is perhaps, as Colonel Richard Kemp, a former commander of the British Army, has said, the Israeli IDF is the most moral army in the world.
Yeah, we had Dan Gordon on yesterday, and we asked him the proportionality question.
Yeah,
and he spoke very eloquently to that. But then when we got up to Lebanon, as Arie said earlier, proportionality is going to go out the window, very possibly, because of a different set of facts on the ground. Barry, you wanted to weigh in on this unrest that's in the streets with radical extremist Jews fighting radical extremist Arabs. Help us understand what's going on.
Yeah, with this, we have a major problem over here, because what has happened is that Hamas has managed to recruit a lot of disenchanted Israeli Arabs. It started actually by some Israeli Arabs going out in Jaffa and attacking a rabbi, and they filmed it on TikTok and sent it out around the social media. And unfortunately, tragically, this was taken up by Arabs in Hebron and also in Jerusalem that went out onto the street to target Jews. The guys the Arabs in Jaffa went off and attacked two what's called yeshiva students, young teenagers who were studying Jewish studies, and attacked those as well. And they were filming it all the time. And Hamas was very quick to take advantage of this. And they said, you should take to the streets for the name of Allah and Greater Palestine. And what we found was that the Arabs actually went on the street and started attacking Jews, dragging them from their cars and trying to lynch them. And what happened after that was that we had from the other side a lot of Jews who were already angry from being under fire, being under attack, taking the law into their own hands and going out and attacking or looking for the Arabs that were attacking Jews. And we had virtually a civil war on the streets. And that has had to be put down in a very major manner. Let me just add one thing that, for instance, where it became a anti-Semitic, evidence of anti-Semitism is in Lod in particular. The Arabs torched 3 synagogues. The targets were Jews and explicitly Jews. And therefore, some of the Jews took it in their own hands to go out and try and head off these gangs by confronting them. And we head up with 1 or 2, again, hotheads that went hunting also for some of the Arabs. In other words, we were getting a deteriorating situation over here. And it's required a lot of reorganization by the police, also recruiting the military police. And also, Arie will agree with me, unfortunately, some of the ex-reservists to come out and support the police in the towns in order to get between the people looking for trouble.
Wow.
Unbelievable. I wanted to bring Roni back. And Roni, are you still with us?
No. He's not with us?
On?
No, he's not with us.
He's not. Okay.
We're going to start winding this down.
Ronnie is still with us if you want him to come back.
Hi, Tom.
Yeah.
Tom, with your permission, if I'm on, can you hear me?
Yeah. Go ahead. And Ronnie, Mayor, if you can get Ronnie back, we got a question for him. And then we got a question for Arie, and then we'll wind this down. Go ahead, Barry.
I just want to raise another point that's coming from your place over there. I want to express on behalf of all of Israel our disgust at the comment made by people like Bernie Sanders, who demanded of the government that he is part of to treat the Israel-Palestinian problem even-handedly. I want to ask Bernie Sanders how you treat even-handedly the only democracy in the Middle East with an Islamic terror organization that have hurled 3,000 rockets at the Jewish state simply because we're Jewish. And yet Bernie Sanders is asking that the Biden administration treat both sides as if we're equal partners and should be treated even-handedly. I think everybody in America should get behind Israel and really condemn and criticize, not Israel, but Bernie Sanders and his ilk for these sort of comments.
Mm-hmm.
Here.
Well said. I think Ronnie is back. Ronnie, we wanted to bring you in for some final comments. I know that you know both Barry and Arie. Tell us, just in closing statement.
Does he have any questions for those guys? I mean, he's been.
I think we covered in the last 2 hours quite a bit of what's going on in Israel. And obviously, Arie, who's an expert in his field, gave us a little bit of a better understanding. And Barry, you explained what happened last night in Gaza. But I still think, and Arie, I think, and Barry would agree with me, that we will handle Gaza and we will handle Lebanon if necessary. But the internal problem in Israel, which, as I said before, was a ticking bomb throughout the years, mainly because of neglect and shoving or pushing stuff under the rug, exploded finally. How to put the genie back in the bottle? A major issue. Hopefully, by grace of God, we'll be able to control the hoodlums in the streets. Those are factions. I still think minority, to a certain degree, minority in the Arab Israeli groups and obviously in the Israelis. But this must be taken care of, because if we don't take care of that, we don't have a country.
Yeah, well, you know what? We'll have to do a show on that. It's time to start winding this down.
I was thinking about that outpost up north.
Mizgavam, where we go all the time.
Tom, I would agree with Ron. But what has to happen, and Ron must agree with me, we need to get both our politicians from all the major parties, including the Arab Party, to speak up and condemn it from both sides. And I think we can solve it if, for instance, the Arab members of the Knesset speak up and condemn what their people have been doing, and to have our side of the equation help them bring more law and order, not only to our society, but theirs as well, and bring them into the mainstream. Unfortunately, throughout all this, the Jewish members of the Knesset and Jewish representatives have been condemning it completely, but we've had a total silence from the Arab members of the Knesset. They've been missing in action. And that is part of the problem.
All right. This is very interesting, folks. 10:46 in the morning, 5:46 in Israel. Two of our guests are in Israel. Susie Gold here with me, Mark, and a few others in here. I am having a weird experience. I'm sitting here listening, and it's like we're in Arie's living room, the six of us having a conversation.
And he just came out of the shelter.
Without the wine.
I'm forgetting that we're broadcasting to people. It's, you're supposed to tell the people what we're doing, what time. It's so fascinating and so critically important. 2 points. Arie, we have a strategic question for you. And then after we're done with any other comments, we're going to close out with about a 2-minute video of, I think everybody, not just the guys, of one of the most beautiful Israeli women soldiers I think I've ever seen. She has some comments about what's going on. You're not going to want to miss this. She's very good. She's a little easy on the eyes too. You sent it to me, didn't you?
Yes.
You're the one who sent it.
I was
to
just
me.
so impressed by her and how
Tom, can you hear me?
You do not want to miss this.
We'll do that at the end. But strategically, Arie.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. Here's the question.
As we speak now, I hear another salvo of rockets explosion from the south, where I live. I counted some 6 or 8 explosions, and I think we'll have a very wild night tonight, Friday night. Okay, what was your question?
Yeah, I have red alert. I'm looking at what is Niraz, N-I-R-O-Z. Niraz was one of them. A preliminary statement before I ask you the question. The mission, the IAF mission, and it's integrated. It's the whole military complex in Israel with all these aircraft and the strategic bombing and all of that. That's going to be studied. Probably a movie will be made out of it one day, but that will send shockwaves into Iran, into Lebanon, into enemy areas. Just the sophisticated precision and efficiency of lethal force in a short amount of time, a ring of fire. But against that backdrop, we know the Islamic mind. We know that there's a jihad element to it. Do you see anything? What's Hezbollah doing right now? What are the leaders of Hezbollah thinking? Are they saying it's the time to do something, or we better step back? What do you think, Arie?
I think that the Hezbollah still remembers what happened in the last war, and they still rebuild the full areas that were destroyed then. So now they are quiet. I think they will study and they will analyze what happens now in Gaza, and they will think twice before they start again launching rockets into Israel. That's my opinion.
Barry, Ron, why don't you weigh in?
Yeah. Tom, I want to add, we were fortunate. I mean, for a country that's had almost 3,000 rockets fired at us, we were fortunate. We were fortunate that the rockets that Hamas have are less sophisticated and precise missiles than the ones that Hezbollah have. Can you imagine if they had the precise missiles and they would have targeted precisely Ben Gurion Airport and certain sensitive infrastructure in Tel Aviv? But they have what, 60,000 rockets? It's estimated that Hezbollah has about 120,000 rockets, more sophisticated, more powerful, and more precision missiles provided by Iran, that once they fire them, they can fire them more precisely than what we've had right now. And as we saw with Iron Dome is reckoned to have managed to bring down 90% of the rockets. But if 10% of Hezbollah precision rockets hit Haifa port, the chemical things, certain infrastructures like Ben Gurion and Tel Aviv and places like that, we're in deep trouble. So if Israel has to take action, we don't want the international community to call us illegal and everything. We put a blockade on Gaza, if you remember, for precisely that reason, and we were criminalized for it. So we have to look after our own defense and ignore the international community, even if they pass laws in the United Nations condemning us, because nobody is going to protect us, certainly not the Biden administration, who are now talking and opening the door to Iran.
Yeah. We would like to go another hour. We're going to have to wind it down. Ron, your closing thoughts?
Well, I could not agree more with Arie and Barry's assessment. And the proof actually was given to us today. I believe with the green light given from Hezbollah, at the very place where I delivered the message on the border in Metula, right. Lebanese crossed the border into the Israel section of the no man's land, and they were at one point giving probably the green light again from Hezbollah to come back. It was all to test the waters and to see how things will unfold. Israel was clever enough not to create an issue out of that, and the whole thing was over. Thing is, and I think Dan Gordon said it very, certainly he was right in what he said. If Lebanon gets into the game here, there will be, and Arie I think said it before, there will be a coward bombing of a state of Lebanon. And that's a different story from the Gaza Strip. So here we're coming to Shabbat, so let's wish each other Shabbat Shalom, and hopefully, Arie, you'll be able to sleep tonight. And I think, Barry, you've been spared in Netanya for the last few days. And certainly we are in Florida now, don't have to go to this. So Shabbat Shalom to everybody, and let's reconvene when we need to.
All right, let's get a closing thought from our folks here.
Yeah, I just want to actually ask Arie one more quick question. When do you think it ends? What time frame, and how do you think it ends?
Well, I think that it will take another 3, 4, 5 days until the Hezbollah will understand
Hamas.
the mistake they did.
Hamas.
And I think that by the mid of next week, it will be over. That's my assumption.
Okay. Yeah. Susie Gold.
You know, hearing about, here we are in the comforts of our studio and hearing what's going on with our good friends in Israel that are on this call, and certainly all the Israelis that are living in shelters. And it's just, it's really all we could do really from here is make sure that people understand the truth of what's going on, because we know that the other side is going to be saying things that are not true. And Hamas and all the Arabs in Gaza and elsewhere look like the underdogs when they're the ones that started this whole thing. So we have to make sure that the correct information is sent out, and make sure that people know what's really occurring, and make sure that we contact our politicians, because they're talking from Washington and they're spreading the word as if Israel's to blame here. And you know, the story just keeps repeating. We've got to stop that. We've got to do a better job at public relations and within the media, and start by telling your friends to listen to this show, because here you're getting accurate information.
Well, you raised the public relations issue, and we've known, I mean, we've talked to public relations people in Israel, have said, help us, our public relations is terrible. I think they had a guy there, whenever they did their little videos, he would say, go get me some army guys to do a video. And they get the army guys and 2 or 3 of them. It was fine. But I think that head of public relations for Israel got fired, and they brought somebody in maybe from Miami, Miami public relations, who said, all right, Army schmarmy, we need a beautiful girl, stick a uniform on her. We don't even care if she's in the Army. Put a uniform on her, let her talk, light her up, have the camera real nice, and then the thing will go viral. So we're gonna close this show out and listen carefully. She is a soldier. Listen carefully. She sums things up in a very unique way. I don't know her name, but here she is.
Between Hamas and Israel, it's not a war over a land. It's not a war over a country. Don't tell me they want Jerusalem if they are able to destroy it. This war is about existence. The Jewish people are done being the victims of this world. This is why we will fight back no matter what. This is why we will keep defending our country. This is why we will never surrender. For me, it's very important to mention, we don't hate anyone. Israel is all about peace, but a lot of people were brainwashed into thinking that we are the problem. But you have no idea what we go through. הכל בסדר, הכל בסדר. לא לקום, לא לקום. הכל בסדר, רציתי עוד אחד. Our children grow up with rockets above their head. We suffer from terror attacks all the time. They try to stab us. They try to kill us. They wish to be shaheed, to kill all the Jews. It's not about the land. They want us dead. All know that Israel is such a young but yet so successful and strong country, and we need to stand strong against the lies of the media that keep victimizing Palestine and keep blaming Israel for everything that happens. I ask you guys, share the truth. No matter what happens next, we will keep defending our land. We don't need the whole world to support us, because we know the truth. Hamas uses women and children as human shield. Hamas is a terror organization. Stand with Israel. Share this to all of your friends and family, and let's stop the lies. Let's stop the brainwash. Let's stand with the truth.
Gives you chills, doesn't it?
Yeah, there you go. Gentlemen and Susie Gold, thank you all. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
We're going to wind it down. We will be here tomorrow with our non-Torah observant crew.
What?
We'll be here. We got to carry on. Roni, Barry, Arie, everyone, David, we'll see you. Time to leave. Take care. Tom
everybody.
Trento signing off
Bye,
right at 11
everybody.
a.m.